It all started back in the new year, where I hosted a special stream, where some users could pick a video game that I would have to make a video on. For those wondering, yes, I'm still working on them. And while thinking of ideas for one of these games, I decided to look into speedrunning. Speedrunning is essentially beating a game as fast as possible. Though there are a number of categories within the games themselves. Any percent just means get to the end of the game, not trying to collect everything you can. Simply, get to the end. While glitchless any percent is the same, but you can't use glitches. That would make this a lot easier. As I was researching all of this for a different video, a friend of mine by the name of Zombie reached out to me with an offer. They host a competition of sorts on one of their favorite games of all time, Crystal's Pony Tale, where two people would start a new game at the same time, and the one who beats the game the fastest would move on to the next round till there is only one. So one day, Zom asked if I would like to compete in the next event. Since I was already trying to get into speedrunning for this other video, I was like, sure. And could you show me how to play this? So one Discord later, Zom explains how the game works as I play it. The game's short, so there wouldn't be too much to remember. Or so I thought. As Zom was explaining everything to me, I decided to time some of the runs with my phone's stopwatch. Shout out to Zombie for teaching me this game. The whole reason this video even got made in the first place. I went from a finished time of 13 minutes to around 10. It was at this moment I noticed that I could get on this game leaderboards on speedrun.com. That I would rank 28th in the world if I had submitted the run. But that's when I saw the name. Yes, Zombie had a run submitted. A 9 minutes and 27 second run. I was in shock. Not at the fact that Zombie speedruns this game. I mean, they hold a competition where people compete in the speedrunning of this game. But in fact, it was that short. I couldn't fathom a run that fast. I mean, I could see a 950, but a 927. And then Zombie told me her friend also ran the game and submitted a run by beating her by 2 seconds. Zombie seemed pretty annoyed that the friend beat the run by 2 seconds. It was at this moment I knew what I must do. I must beat both their goals to annoy Zombie even more. Because that's what friends do. Come along and beat you at a game that you loved as a kid. But in all seriousness, thank you for sharing this game with me. The only question was, how was I gonna beat their time? To understand how first, we must understand the run. You can see this next section as a basic guide to running Crystal's Pony Tale. The aim of the game is simple. Rescue 7 pony friends who have been turned into crystals by an evil witch. Defeat the witch that sealed your friends by hitting them twice with the action button. Ride the rainbow to the castle to hang out with all your pony friends. Simple enough, right? Well, first off, you can change the jump and action buttons around. Since this game only has a jump and action button and a Genesis controller, and Mega Drive for everyone else, has 3 and sometimes even more buttons, you can change what buttons do, but I leave mine on default. Next, you can change the color of your pony. You can change the mane, the body, and the tail color. Well, there are 3 key items you need to know. The first is the crystal themselves. Collect the crystals to have the ability to rescue a pony with the same crystal shape as shown by the chalk outline, by hitting the action button as being shown now. Next is a key. Keys obviously open up chests which can often hold a crystal. And finally is the horseshoe, which is used to go through gates. Gates appears at the end of sections and levels, and you will need 5 horseshoes per gate. Since this is any percent, we play on the easiest difficulty, so we should have enough horseshoes to go through all the gates, as getting hit by the enemies will make you lose some horseshoes. There are essentially 4 levels: the forest, the farm, the mountains, and finally the bridge. The forest and farms have 3 sections, while the mountain has 2, and the bridge is sort of a hub world. In order to go through the next section, you will need to go through a gate, like I mentioned before, which will cost you 5 horseshoes. Generally, entering a level costs nothing, as at the start of each game you can choose which level to go to, and the bridge level, like I mentioned before, is a hub level that has access to the other 3 levels. You can bypass this by using signposts that appear throughout each level that will teleport you to another section in another level, but more on that later. The run starts as soon as you hit start game, or you can just hit start on your controller. You now enter a screen where you can select the 3 main levels. Now you can do them in any order, but we go with the middle one first, as the farm often requires a key to get the crystals, and at the start of that level, there isn't any keys. The mountains is the shortest, but there's a chance we don't have to do the cave section of it. More on that later. So first do the forest, then the farm, and finally the mountain. Be careful in the first section of the mountain, the cave part, as you need to go all the way right and fall down off a ledge. If you move left, you go back to the beginning of the game, and you have to go back into the mountains, which wastes a lot of time. Just move right till you fall off the edge for safety. As you would have noticed at the end of each level, you go to this bridge area. Like I mentioned, it's the hub level. Here you can see the 3 main levels, as well as across some of them. This indicates that the level has all the ponies rescued in it, and you don't need to go back there. In order to rescue a pony, you need to collect a crystal. Where the crystals will be, we'll get more in detail later, but for now, a general tip is certain NPCs will tell you where the crystal is, and when you rescue a pony friend, they will tell you where the next pony friend is. For now, let's say open up every chest and interact with everything you see. Sometimes you may see a crystal out in the open, and others will be hidden behind a chest, or barn doors under a lock. There's a lot of stuff to interact with in this game, especially the farm level. To interact with something, you hit the action button. You may often need to hit it multiple times, like this example where I have to dig for a crystal. Once you have the crystal will appear in the bottom center of the screen. You need to touch the crystal in order to get it. Often crystals will appear right before the corresponding pony, as seen with this chalk outline. This may be in the next section or in the same section. Simply hit the action button while standing in front of the pony outline. This may not always be the case. More on that later. After rescuing all 7 ponies, you will return to the bridge level. At the end of the bridge level, before you can jump on the rainbow, you will fight the witch. Hit the witch 2 times. Then jump on the rainbow. Once you see this incline in the rainbow, you are at the end. Jump into the edge of the screen and the run is over. Now for the pain. Remember at the start of the video where I said the game's short so there wouldn't be too much to remember? That's not entirely true. You see, this game has 2 levels of RNG. RNG, in case you don't know, stands for Random Number Generator. It's often used when certain stuff in games could have a number of different outcomes or patterns, often outside the player control. In the case of Crystal Ponytail, the placement of gems is RNG, meaning each run can be different on the placements of the crystals. Though they do have set patterns, so remembering these patterns is key, because while there are only 7 crystals, the locations they can be in is way more than 7. Knowing the patterns means knowing the locations, which means you're not wasting time on each potential location looking for a crystal, opening unnecessary chests, or interacting with unnecessary objects. This also means some patterns are much faster than others. Let me explain. Like I mentioned, the crystal can appear in chests and other places. Some places like the barn require you to do an action, move, go back, open the barn, then open the chest. Like I said before, there is one where you have to dig down to a crystal, and some crystals just appear in the open. Now, while this can affect time, as some tasks are quicker to do than others, it's not as big as a hindrance as the next point: what sections they appear in. As I mentioned before, the game has 4 levels, but 3 of the levels are where you rescue the ponies, and the 4th is sort of a hard final boss section. 2 of the levels, Forest and the Farm, can have up to 3 ponies to rescue, where the mountains can have 2. Certain patterns mean you can skip sections of the game and not waste horseshoes or go into the hub world multiple times. Remember when I said I wanted to beat their times but I didn't know how I was going to do it? Well, I watched the world record holders run and realised they skipped the cave section in the mountain by using a signpost to warp to the waterfall bit in the mountains to get the final pony, only to go back to the signpost to get the remaining ponies in the farm level. This meant not only did they skip the cave section of the mountain, but they need to go back to the hub level to go to the mountain level. This saves so much time, as at the end of sections there is a good job screen, and the fact that the game shows each of the 5 horseshoes individually leaving the pony after hitting the gate. But I hear you cry, what about the second level of RNG? So, every time you free a pony, there is a chance for the witch to spawn in, and it's RNG. The world record run had the witch spawn once, but most of the time I've had the witch spawn in 3 or 4 times. Obviously fighting the witch is not hard. 2 hits and they're down with the action button, but often you have to wait for the witch to get close to hit them. Hit them, wait for them to appear back in, get close to them, hit them, wait for a screen to get brighter again, and hit the action button again to free the pony. If you hit the action button and the screen is still too dark, then your pony will just lift its head and nothing will happen, and you will have to wait for it to lower its head before you can hit the action button again. This can add up. Now, getting a good pattern with the crystals I feel can be annoying. In my 2-hour livestream, I believe the pattern appeared 3 times. But getting a low witch encounter is insane. Now for movement. This ain't Mario or even Sonic. There is some real weight to your pony. Just moving in one direction feels slow, so the movement tech in this is to jump as you can travel faster. Now the issue is jump too often and the pony slows down. Jump at the wrong time and the pony won't do it. Honestly, the first hurdle to overcome is to get used to the movement and when to jump. I generally jump, wait a second before jumping again. Also, timing when to jump is important, as you can easily jump over chests, interactable items, and of course, your pony buddies. You will have to touch the crystal in order to pick it up, even if it's been opened from a chest, and sometimes your jump won't touch it. Pressing the interact button lifts your pony's head up, which normally is enough for it to touch the crystal. What I like to do is when the crystal's in a chest, is to face the direction I want to move in, make sure I'm in the middle of the chest, hit the action button, followed by the jump button and the direction I want to move in. This results in the pony getting the item and moving in the general direction faster. The placement of the pony is key, as some interaction you want to be in the right spot for it to work. Not pixel perfect, but some of the time you'll feel like, huh? Why didn't it work this time? It's because you're a few pixels off. After learning all of this, it was time to train. And by train, I mean spend 2 months doing absolutely nothing, then finally on one Wednesday afternoon, having nothing planned for the stream, decided to finally get some runs in. I downloaded LiveSplit, a tool speedrunners use to show a clock, as well as have splits. For longer runs, runners break the game into sections so they can see where they have improved or where they need to practice more. Since this game is so short, with a lot of RNG, there is no point, as one run I might have to collect 1 pony from the forest, but in another I would need to have 3. There is no consistency. With that, I did some runs to make sure everything was working before the stream. The first was around 10 minutes with a lot of mistakes. The second run was the shit. God pattern with minimal witch encounters. It was a 9-minute and 7-second run. I had done it. I'd beaten Zombie's time. I'd beaten Ginger's time. Look, I even have the screenshot to prove it. I was happy for a second, but as you can see in this screenshot, I'm annoyed, as I was like, why oh why didn't I hit record? With that annoyance in me, I began my stream and did some runs. Some sloppy plays, but nothing came close to that 9-minute and 7-second run. I just wasn't getting the god tier pattern. A 10-minute run, a sub 10, but once again the god tier pattern appeared. But I was still annoyed with not recording my god run that I made a lot of mistakes. One was miss the sign to go to the waterfall section. This basically meant I completed the farm. I had to run all the way back to the sign to go to the mountains waterfall section to avoid the cave section and an extra bridge section. Running back would still be faster, but not fast enough, as I got a 9-minute and 30-second run, which I was happy with, but it was still slower than Zombs. Of 6 seconds! With God King Mew cheering me on or telling me to believe in RNG Jesus, I got the God tier pattern again. This was my chance for redemption. I didn't look at the clock. I knew what I had to do. This time, hitting the sign at the right point, only 2 witches with some minor movement mistakes. Now for the final boss. And I turned too early on the second hit. The witch likes to spawn behind you, but I turned before it spawned in and it teleported to the wrong side with the longer travel distance. But it didn't matter. 8 minutes and 54 seconds. A sub 9. Sub 9! Yes! Yes! I had beaten Zombie's time by a whole 30 seconds. That 907 run was no longer haunting me. It didn't matter. Now to submit my run and wait for my name on the leaderboard. Oh yeah, I was now tied for 14th in the world. But now what? Well, it's simple. I gotta go for world record. So if you want to see me attempt world record, then don't forget to check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/saltyjarvis. Also a huge thank you to Zombie for making this video possible. Go check out their Twitch channel, twitch.tv/zombie. All the links to the channels will be in the video description down below. Also at some point they're holding another Crystal Pony race, so if you want to watch a bunch of adults sweat it out over a kid's game, not like that, then definitely give them a follow. But while this is a game I continue to work on, it's not the reason I started speedrunning. This was the appetizer, Doverkin. It's time. I went for the main course. And no, Carl, I'm not speedrunning GTA 5 or 6 when it comes out. God damn it, Kyle.